Do you feel heaviness in your stomach every day, even after a regular meal? It's not necessarily a disease, and it's not always just age. Very often, the problem lies in specific foods that prevent your stomach from working calmly. Today, we'll go over 6 foods that may be causing that discomfort. I'll share real-life examples and explain what you can do about it. No diets, no strict rules, no complicated plans. Just simple steps you can start today. Let's begin with something that shows up in nearly every conversation I have with older patients: white bread and baked goods. Now, I know this one can feel personal because toast in the morning or a soft dinner roll has been part of many people's routines for years. But if you often feel heavy, sluggish, or bloated after meals, white bread could be playing a quiet role in that discomfort. As we get older, our metabolism slows down, and the gut becomes less efficient at handling fast-digesting carbohydrates, like those in white flour. These refined carbs break down quickly into sugar, which can spike blood sugar, trigger fatigue, and cause that familiar brick-in-the-stomach feeling. Plus, they often lack the fiber needed to support healthy digestion, which means food moves more slowly through your system and sits longer, creating that sense of fullness that doesn't feel good. I remember working with Janet, 72, from Indiana, who came to me complaining that even light meals left her feeling tired and heavy. She told me her usual breakfast was 2 slices of white toast with a little butter and jam. Just something easy, she said. She thought it was a gentle way to start the day, but by mid-morning she felt sleepy and her stomach felt bloated. We looked at her eating habits and noticed that white bread showed up multiple times a day. Toast at breakfast, sandwich at lunch, a biscuit with dinner. I explained how refined flour might be affecting her blood sugar and slowing digestion. At first, she wasn't sure she wanted to change anything. It was familiar. And let's be honest, comfort food has emotional value. So we started small. She switched 1 slice of toast for a bowl of oatmeal a few days a week and added a boiled egg for protein. Over time, she began to notice her energy was steadier and her stomach didn't feel quite as weighed down. A few weeks later, she told me, "I didn't think it would matter, but it's like I have a little more room to breathe in my own body." What often helps is gradually replacing white bread with more fiber-rich choices. Try whole grain or sprouted bread in the morning, or swap your sandwich bread for a lettuce wrap or a hearty salad. For breakfast, oatmeal, eggs, or plain yogurt with fruit can be lighter on your gut and give you steadier energy. You don't have to give up bread entirely. This isn't about strict rules. It's about giving your digestion a break. Think of it like trading in a heavy coat for something more breathable. You're still dressed, just more comfortably. You're not starving. You're choosing foods that help you feel clearer, lighter, and more at ease in your body. And that's a powerful way to care for yourself every day. Let's take a closer look at something that's part of many people's daily comfort: fried food. Now, I'm not here to tell you to throw away your traditions or your favorite recipes, but if you often feel bloated, heavy, or sluggish after meals, fried food might be a bigger part of the problem than you think. As we get older, the body becomes less efficient at breaking down heavy fats, especially the kind used in pan frying, oils that get heated to high temperatures and change their structure. This puts extra pressure on the liver and gallbladder, slows digestion, and can cause that full, stuck feeling in the stomach. When we're younger, the body can handle occasional fried meals without much protest. But with age, even the same foods can feel harder to process. If you've noticed you feel worse after fried dinners or need longer to recover after eating them, you're not imagining it. I remember Robert, 75, from Florida, a retired contractor, warm and easygoing, who loved his routine. Every evening, he made himself dinner, and at the center of the plate was always a generous helping of pan-fried potatoes. "It's how my mother cooked," he told me, "and it reminds me of being young." That made a lot of sense. Food has memory, and I never take that lightly. But Robert had started to feel tired after dinner, and described his stomach as slow, like everything just sat there. He also mentioned needing antacids more often. When we talked about what might be causing it, fried food came up. He looked at me and said, "But it's just potatoes." We agreed not to take them away, just to change how they were prepared. He started baking them in the oven with a little seasoning and using parchment paper so they wouldn't stick. A few weeks later, he told me, "It's funny, they still taste good, but I don't feel knocked out after dinner anymore." It wasn't about removing joy, just removing the part that made digestion harder. One of the simplest ways to lighten up your meals is to cook with less oil or change the method. Try baking vegetables instead of frying them, or use a non-stick pan with just a touch of oil spray. Steaming or roasting with herbs can bring out flavor without heaviness. You can even get creative with an air fryer if you have one. It's not about giving things up. It's about giving your body less work to do. Think of your digestion like an engine. When it runs clean, you move easier and feel better. You don't need to cut out flavor. You just shift how you build it. Your body will notice, and it will thank you for making the change with care. Another common trigger I see, especially in older adults, is processed meats. Things like deli ham, sausages, bacon, or smoked meats. Now I understand these foods are familiar and often tied to tradition, sandwiches, breakfasts, Sunday, dinners. But over time, our bodies become less tolerant of the additives, salt, and preservatives in processed meats. These ingredients can lead to bloating, water retention, and slow digestion. For people over 60, the kidneys and liver don't filter as efficiently as they used to, and that means the byproducts from these meats linger longer and cause discomfort. Plus, processed meats tend to be high in saturated fats, which can contribute to that sluggish, heavy feeling many people describe after meals. You might be eating something small, but your body has to work extra hard to deal with it, and sometimes it just doesn't feel worth it. I worked with Carol 80 from Ohio, who came to me because she was feeling bloated nearly every afternoon, even though she wasn't eating large portions. She lived alone, kept things simple, and told me her go-to lunch was always a ham sandwich with white bread and a slice of cheese. Quick and easy, she said. She wasn't overeating, and she stayed active with walks in her neighborhood. But she still felt heavy and uncomfortable. She also started noticing her rings felt tighter by evening. When we reviewed her habits, the processed ham came up, and I gently explained how the sodium and additives might be part of what was making her body hold onto fluid and feel slow. She looked surprised. "But it's just one sandwich," she said. I didn't ask her to cut it out cold turkey just to try an alternative a few days a week. She switched to shredded chicken breast, or canned salmon with herbs, and added lentil soup on some days for variety. Within a couple weeks, she reported that her stomach felt lighter and the swelling in her hands had gone down. She even said she had more energy after eating, not less. That's the kind of change I love to hear about. What often helps is swapping out processed meats for simple, whole sources of protein. Things like boiled chicken, tuna, soft beans, or even eggs can provide just as much nutrition without the additives. These choices are easier on your system and leave you with more usable energy, not heaviness. You can still enjoy a sandwich. Just make a small change in what goes inside. Your meals should lift you up, not weigh you down. Think of it like replacing a heavy coat with a soft, breathable sweater. It's still familiar and comforting, just easier on your body. And every little change you make is a step toward feeling better, one bite at a time. Let's move on to something that surprises a lot of people: the way carbonated drinks affect your digestion. Now, I know it can feel harmless to enjoy. A can of soda with lunch, especially if it's diet or sugar-free. But even without the sugar, carbonated drinks can really throw off your digestive balance. As we age, our stomach lining becomes more sensitive. Our acid levels often shift, and digestion slows down a bit. When you add carbonation into that system, you're introducing gas that expands inside your stomach, which can lead to bloating, belching, pressure, and even reflux. And here's the tricky part. Many older adults don't connect those symptoms with the drink itself. They assume it's just part of aging, or maybe something they ate. But in many cases, the bubbles are a hidden culprit. It's not about guilt or giving up everything. It's about understanding what's quietly adding discomfort to your day. George, 78, from Arizona, is someone I've worked with who really brought this to life for me. George is a practical guy, keeps a steady routine, and said his lunches were nothing fancy: a sandwich, some fruit, and always a cold Diet Cola. He came to me with complaints about afternoon bloating and pressure that felt like a balloon stuck under his ribs. We went over his meals, checked portion sizes, and talked about ingredients. Everything looked reasonable. When I asked about drinks, he shrugged and said, "Just one soda a day. It helps wash things down." That's when I explained how carbonation doesn't just disappear. It builds up as gas in the digestive tract, especially when the stomach is already working hard. I suggested a simple change. Try lemon water or a warm herbal tea with lunch for 2 weeks and see what happens. George wasn't thrilled at first. He liked the fizz, but he agreed. 2 weeks later, he returned with a big grin. "My stomach's quieter and I don't feel like I need to unbutton my pants after eating." That alone felt like a win. What often helps is switching your go-to drink to something that supports digestion rather than disrupts it. Warm ginger tea, peppermint tea, or plain water with lemon can soothe the stomach lining and actually help move food along more gently. You're not giving up joy, you're just giving your system more peace to work with. Think of it like turning down background noise, less pressure, more calm. You deserve meals that feel good from start to finish, and a simple switch in your glass can be the first step toward that comfort. Here's another sneaky culprit that many people don't expect: artificial sweeteners. I know they sound like a smart alternative. You're cutting sugar, watching your blood sugar levels, maybe trying to lose weight. And for some folks, they can be a helpful tool. But I've also seen plenty of people over 60 struggle with bloating, gas, or even constipation after switching to sugar-free products. What many don't realize is that some artificial sweeteners, especially the sugar alcohols like sorbitol, mannitol, or xylitol, can irritate the gut and slow down the natural rhythm of digestion. They tend to ferment in the intestines, which leads to strange gurgling, cramping, or that something's stuck feeling. And since older adults already have a slower digestive system, those effects can feel even stronger. It's frustrating because you're trying to make a healthy change, and instead you feel worse. But once you understand how your body responds, you can make better choices without going back to spoonfuls of sugar. One of my clients, Linda, 70, from California, came to me a few months after switching her whole kitchen to sugar-free everything: yogurt, cookies, even ketchup. She was proud of herself and said she felt more in control. But then she noticed her stomach started making odd sounds throughout the day, and she went from being regular to feeling backed up and bloated most mornings. She said, "It's like my stomach talks back to me now." We looked at the ingredient labels and found artificial sweeteners in nearly every meal she ate. She had replaced sugar, but it overwhelmed her gut in a new way. I asked her to try a few simple swaps: a small drizzle of local honey in her tea instead of flavored packets, cinnamon on her oatmeal instead of sweeteners, and switching to fresh fruit when she wanted dessert. Within 2 weeks, the bloating eased, and her digestion settled into a calmer rhythm. Linda told me, "I didn't realize I was trading one problem for another." And that's the thing. It wasn't about going back to sugar, it was about finding a middle ground that felt better in her body. What often helps is reading the labels and choosing natural, gentle, sweet options. A small amount of real honey, a sprinkle of cinnamon, or a bowl of berries can give enough sweetness without the artificial side effects. These shifts are simple, satisfying, and far easier on your digestive system. Think of it like tuning a radio. You're just adjusting the frequency until the noise goes away and the music comes through clearly. You don't need to aim for perfect, just a little more ease, a little more balance, and that's already a big win. Let's wrap up with something that catches many people off guard: dairy products. Now, I'm not here to tell you dairy is bad. Milk, cheese, and yogurt have been a part of many people's diets for decades, and they do offer nutritional benefits. But something that often changes with age is how well your body tolerates lactose. That's the natural sugar found in dairy. Many people who had no trouble drinking milk in their 30s or 40s suddenly start noticing bloating, gas, or even cramping after a glass of milk or a bowl of ice cream in their 60s or 70s. What happens is that the body slowly produces less of the enzyme lactase, which is needed to break down lactose. When that sugar isn't fully digested, it ferments in the gut and leads to discomfort. You may not connect it to dairy right away, especially if it's been part of your evening routine for years. But even comforting foods can become irritating if your body changes and your habits don't adjust. Henry, 74, from Michigan, is a man I remember well. Quiet, polite, and very set in his ways. He came to me with a strange complaint. His stomach felt unsettled most nights, especially early in the morning. He wasn't eating heavy food, and he kept his dinners light, but he mentioned drinking a glass of warm milk every night before bed. "It's something my mother always gave me. It helps me relax," he told me. At first glance, it didn't seem like a problem, but when I asked if he had any gas or rumbling in the night, he nodded, looking surprised. "How'd you know?" That was the clue. We talked about lactose intolerance and how it can appear gradually. I didn't ask him to stop cold turkey. I suggested trying a lactose-free milk for a couple of weeks to see if he noticed a difference. He made the switch, and within a week, the rumbling stopped and his sleep improved. He even started waking up with a flatter stomach. Later, we introduced a probiotic yogurt in the mornings, and his digestion stayed calm. It wasn't about giving something up. It was about giving his body what it could handle better. What often helps is switching to lactose-free options or adding in probiotic-rich foods like kefir or plain yogurt with active cultures. These support digestion instead of stressing it, and you still get the nutritional value without the upset. If you're unsure, try removing dairy for a few days and see how your body feels. It often tells you more than any test. Think of it like changing glasses when your vision shifts. The world becomes clearer, even though you're still looking at the same view. Your body evolves, and your care should evolve with it. That's not a loss. It's wisdom in action. If something in this video was helpful to you, let us know in the comments which food you're ready to reconsider. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you won't miss simple, kind tips each week. You are not alone. Your body is speaking to you, and you have the strength to listen. Even the smallest steps can bring lightness back into your day. Life goes on. Let's move through it lightly.